Thank you for joining us in Finding God in the World of Video Games. You know, it's hard to believe, but the Ratchet and Clank series has been here now for almost 20 years. Now I feel really old. Well, I already felt old, but throughout this long-running and incredibly popular franchise, there has been one constant burden that has surrounded Ratchet. His entire civilization was kind of, ripped into another dimension, leaving him as the only Lombax that he knows. Now sure, he does run into a couple other members of his species during his adventures, but mild spoiler alert, although I don't consider it a spoiler since you should have played at least a couple of these by now. When he does run into them, they don't tend to hang around too terribly long. So as a result, he runs through each and every one of these games in the series with only his robotic companion Clank to count on when the going gets tough. Until now.
In Rift Apart, Ratchet finally meets a fellow Lombax named Ribbon, a female of his species who has more than just a few things in common with Ratchet, namely that the only other Lombax they know is standing right in front of them, and they have the shared burden of saving the galaxy. After all this time, he finally finds a partner, even if they are from an entirely different dimension and were never actually intended to share the same space or time.
Multiverses, I guess, are a thing now for everybody.
I know.
So despite being the same species, they're not technically even related because they're from entirely different realities. But by the end of their journey, what they share in common more than makes up for the dramatically different backgrounds that they come from. And united by their joint mission, they forge a familial relationship that didn't require a long-lasting heritage or even the benefits of a bloodline to generate.
They may have come from completely different dimensions, but their bond was forged in fire. The family they didn't intend to find was the one they actually needed to accomplish their destiny.
Sometimes we are blessed to have a family who sees and appreciates our mission, supports us, and locks arms with us in our battle to save as many souls as we can through the gifts that the Lord has provided us. But unfortunately, just as many times, I have observed that either due to maybe the old familiarity breeds contempt problem, or simply the lack of a shared vision, that our flesh and blood family members may be, well, let's just say less than supportive in our mission for Christ.
They may not believe that the call He has placed in our hearts is sincere, and due to their proximity to our life choices prior to Christ's redeeming work in our hearts, we don't have multiple hearts, but they may not trust that the change in priorities from our past sins is really genuine. The burden to save souls can be heavy enough without adding the challenge of receiving the least amount of support from those who we desire support from the most.
And if you face this battle or are currently pushing through it, don't worry. You're in some pretty good company right now. And most of us are probably familiar with the battles and struggles that Christ faced on this earth, but it can be easily missed. At the beginning of his earthly ministry, he was not only rejected by his hometown, but painfully rejected by his own flesh and blood family. Even his brothers didn't believe in him. If you look at, and I'll give you just a couple sections you can look through. You look at John 7, you look at Mark 6, we'll see how his family, they weren't supportive. His own people in his hometown actually tried to kill him. Jesus came to the place that should have been his safe space when some other people were trying to kill him. He was under pursuit from people in Judea who were literally trying to kill him. He sought refuge with his family. But instead of providing welcoming arms of encouragement and reassurance that they were there for him and believed in his mission, they pushed him to head right back out into the very danger that he had been trying to avoid.
There are very few Bible verses that are as depressing to hear but completely relatable as reading. Even his brothers did not believe him. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, born of a virgin, didn't even have the support of his own flesh and blood. That's nuts.
And interestingly enough, when they finally did show an interest in seeing him, this is what Christ had to say. So Matthew 12, 46 through 50, we see Jesus, it says he was talking to the crowd, and his mother and his brothers stood outside wanting to speak to him. Oh, now they want to show up, now that he's cool. Someone told him, your mother and brothers are standing outside. They want to speak to you. And he replied to that person, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? And then he pointed to all of these people. He pointed to his disciples and said, here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. Now, it's natural for all of us to desire the validation from those who knew us during our early years, but even Christ was not supported or received by those he grew up with, shared a home with, ate lunch with, and as the oldest brother, probably did his fair share of diaper changes and boo-boo kisses for.
Like Ratchet from the gaming series, we can spend our entire lives looking for those we desire validation from, or we can continue on our mission and find that, much like Christ himself, our spiritual family will be revealed along the journey, because they are the ones sharing in the mission with us.
We hope this encourages you that regardless of your background or the battles you faced in the past, those of us on the battlefield with you, we're all on the same side, part of the same family, and we're united with the same purpose, to do his will here on earth and reach others for Christ. If you have the benefit of a loving and supportive DNA-related family, that's fantastic. Good for you. But if not, you have us, and we have you. We are a family, eternal and unbreakable, brothers and sisters in Christ, freed from our past and aligned on a shared future.
You may have thought you would never find another Lombax. Well, here we are. And there are more of us to find. And we will continue to find each other as we continue along the way.